Alrighty. So for this video, I will be giving you a little bit of an in-depth guide on the passive perks of the game. There are, let's see, 8, 10. There are 13 passive perks in the game. I have these perks maxed out finally. I'll do the active perk list tier video when I get the last active perk maxed out. I need one more, but it is one of the more expensive ones. So, as a general rule, you will start with one passive perk. Your second and third passive perk slots will unlock as you level up the tree. So the first question would be, how do we acquire passive perks? So, in your terminal, in the room that you spawn in, is this board right here. And after missions, you'll see a little blue banner that comes up that says Claimable Perk Points. When you click on it, this milestone page will come up, and any completed perk point icons will be over here. You press X on it, and you can claim them. Then you have to click on this perk screen right here. You're going to get 2 per in most situations. Then you click right here, and you can start purchasing your perks. You click on your perk right here, and then you'll press square to purchase it. And once you have 3 from this tree, you can go onto this tree. And you get 3, you can go onto this tree. And then you get 4, you can go onto this tree. So on and so forth. That's how we get perks. Now you get perks from just playing the game. You'll get the milestones from just playing. So, now that we know all that, let us cover our perks. Now this will be a little bit of a longer video. There are 13 perks, and I can explain all of these in about a minute. But I'm gonna try and get this video to like 35-40 minutes. That's my target time for this. So just be prepared for that, because I do want to explain some changes I would make to the perks, and I do want to explain some builds that work well for some of the perks. Not all, just a few. If you're a veteran, you're gonna know most of what I'm talking about. So let's talk about the worst perks in the game. We'll go from worst to best. So the first worst perk of the game is it's a loot bug thing. This basically means so that anytime you get within 5 meters of a loot bug, it will explode. And at tier 1, when it's at 2 meters, you can still pet them sometimes before they blow up. The main reason you would run this is because it automatically gives you resources. You're just going to automatically get gold and nitra every time. On some missions, there will be swarms of loot bugs, particularly salvage missions. At the drop pod, all of the loot bugs will swarm to that. You can have easily 20 loot bugs. I've had games where I've had 20 loot bugs right there, and a detonator walks in, and I have no choice but to kill it there, and all the loot bugs are dead. It just rains nitra and gold. This basically does the same effect. The main reason I don't like that is you can't kill the loot bugs. Also, you only get 3 perk slots. Now, it's 13 perks here, and I can make a case for 5, maybe 6 of them that I would run. I cannot make a case for this one. Fuck this perk. So the next perk that I want to talk about that I think is trash is Strong Arm. So Strong Arm makes it so that you throw flares with 50% more force, right? That's terrible. If you need to throw flares that far away, just run Scout with the flare gun. There's no point to running that. The other bonus is that gems and other heavy objects get a 20% bonus throwing force. And that's dog shit. If it was 50% bonus throwing force as well to anything you can carry, I would agree with that. Or another thing I would maybe add is that you could now pick up certain things. Like you could pick up loot bugs. I really want a perk to pick up loot bugs. I'm sorry. Anyways, yeah, this is a garbage perk. If this perk was combined with another perk, maybe cut out the flares and combine the gems and heavy objects with another perk, I would say that this is a little bit better by just eliminating it. So the next perk that I do want to cover is going to be Unstoppable. Unstoppable does have some use, and it's a little bit stronger on the list in my opinion than Strong Arm. But Unstoppable has a couple issues. So the first thing is that environmental slowdown effects are reduced by 50%. Now this does seem good. So for glacial strata, fungus bogs, sandblasted corridor, your slowdown effects are going to be reduced from the goo fields in fungus bogs, the snow patches in glacial strata, and then when the sandstorm blows in, it does slow your movement speed down by about 10% in a sandstorm. This stops that. Here's the issue. It doesn't stop all slowdown effects. This doesn't stop slashers. This doesn't stop Mactera goo bombers. therefore it's less useful for that regard. Now the other thing is that you move 25% faster while carrying heavy objects. This is not noticeable. Like when I run Backbreaker stat, which is 33%, I notice it a little bit. I don't notice it on Unstoppable. So in my opinion, you could add the throw bonus from Strong Arm. You could make it 25%. So you could make it so that you move faster and throw objects 25% farther. So if you put both of those in here, I could see it. It's not a bad perk if you really don't like slowdown builds. But if you really don't like slowdown builds, there's actually a better build than this, because you're going to want to run Second Wind, you're going to want to run Dash, you're going to want to run Sweet Tooth, and you're going to want to run something else, like maybe Resupply or something like that. So those three perks, in my opinion, are pretty bad. Unstoppable is just not that good. I thought it was going to be great for the movement speed as well. So those are the three worst perks in the game, in my opinion. So next up is going to be Elemental Insulation. This is 30% resistance to all elemental damage. Now that covers a lot. That covers electric, nemesite, and shock. That's going to cover any poison, radioactive, fire, explosive, anything that is not a straight melee attack or Mactera projectile, except for the goo bombers and frost bombers. It's going to cover that. The problem to this damage reduction is that the majority of your damage you're going to take outside of, you know, like say if you're in Magma Core with the little fire pockets and stuff like that, and fall damage are the two biggest things. Fall damage and melee damage. Grunts hitting you. Slashers hitting you. This is helpful against Praetorians. I don't have a problem with Praetorians. This is helpful against bulk detonators. It's not going to save you from a bulk detonator dying on you. You need to run. That's the main reason I'm not a fan of this. If you do find yourself just like dying constantly to poison, radioactive, fire in the environment, or to certain enemies, I would advise this. I really don't think it's worth taking a perk slot for. So I'm ruling that one out. So now we're going to talk about the more specialized builds. My next one that I think is pretty trash is Deep Pockets. Deep Pockets makes it so that you hold 15 bonus of any mineral that you are carrying, whether it's nitra, gold, you know, a crafting material, a secondary objective, anything that you can carry and keep on you, you can carry 15% more. Now, the only thing that this is going to affect are your 6 crafting minerals, nitra, and gold. Alright? Now, that's not bad. But the downside is you're only going to be able to carry 2 of these on you at a time. And Enor Pearls and Jadettes come in crystals. They do not come in harvestable unless you kill a Hully Hoarder or a Prospector. So, these 4 are the only ones you're affected by. Very rarely are you going to get more than 45. So it's mostly for nitra and gold. And I mentioned 45 because your Barracuda rig does have a basic modification that allows you to collect an extra 5, which I recommend you run. It's just a little bit helpful because most veins of nitra or gold are going to be 40 mineral veins. So that extra 45 is nice in case you get a vein that's a little bit bigger, or in case a teammate doesn't have enough room, you can clean up a little bit of theirs. And also because the other 2 upgrades here aren't particularly great. So that's one of the main reasons why I want to mention this. It's not a bad choice. If you do have the Barracuda rig upgrade, then it's going to make it so that you have 60 carrying on any mineral. Now, one class I do recommend this for is Scout. I think Scout benefits a lot from having this because you're going to be using your grappling hook to get up to high to reach areas, so the extra carrying capacity means less time having to go back to Molly or a point extraction rig or a refining rig in order to make deposits. That being said, it is helpful, but it doesn't really change the game all that much. It doesn't do anything to make you survive longer. It doesn't do anything to help you kill enemies. It doesn't do anything to keep your team alive. It's one of those things that's nice to have, but not the greatest in the world. So now the next 3 to 4 I'm going to mention, I don't run, but you can make an argument for running them. So probably the last one I'm not going to run is Second Wind. Second Wind makes it so that when you run for 4 seconds, you get 12% sprint speed boost. This makes you move through missions faster. This is something I can again recommend for a scout if you're trying to clear missions very quickly. Just going faster is nice, but I like to take time and explore caves to get as much of the resources as possible. If I am trying to speed run an objective, I'm generally going to run something like a short alien egg, or a point extraction, or a Dreadnought mission, where the only thing I'm looking for in an alien egg mission, the only thing I'm looking for is secondary and crafting minerals. For a point extraction, the only thing I'm looking for are primaries, secondaries, crafting minerals. For a Dreadnought mission, the only thing I'm looking for are Dreadnoughts and Nitro, and crafting minerals if I find them. If I'm running a longer mission, longer egg, it's not really helpful on Drill Dozer because you can just get on the Drill Dozer and ride it. It's not really helpful on refining missions because you can just take the rails once you have them set up, and while you're setting them up, you know, you're not going to be using this as much as you would think. So I'm not particularly a fan of this. I would think this would be better. So if you want to get rid of Unstoppable, and you wanted to put the slowdown reduction into here, and then move objects faster into Strong Arm, and then just get rid of Unstoppable instead, or if you wanted to move this over into Unstoppable and move the faster objects over into Strong Arm, I think that would make this perk a little bit better. It's not bad, like I said before, especially if you want to do a super speed build, but in my opinion, I would say Dash is a better option as an active perk rather than this is. Because on Dash, you're going to cancel any crowd control effects that are on you. Except for, like, a grab. And this boost of speed that you get from that, in my opinion, by negating the crowd control, is better than this. So, I don't run it, but I can see why. So the next one to talk about is Born Ready. This makes it that unequipped weapons automatically reload after 5 seconds. This entirely depends on what weapons you use. There are a couple of modifiers for this. For example, you can run this on the flare gun, where the flare gun can have an auto reload. You can run this on the boomstick, where the boomstick can have an auto reload on it as well. I don't recommend running an auto reload. I don't think you need auto reload. There are a few weapons on the game that I think can benefit from an auto reload. Definitely the autocannon. The autocannon's like a must reload because of how long it takes to reload it. The guided rocket launcher, I don't really think you need a reload on. Nothing here needs a reload. The breach cutter could use a bonus in reload, but you can also run a bonus reload as well. So, and I do think the bonus reload is better than the quick deploy. But again, that's my personal opinion on that. For the sludge pump, I think the sludge pump can definitely benefit from the bonus reload time, because it doesn't really have a reload speed modifier on it. Other than that, I don't think there's a use for it. Also, fun fact, people say it works on the zipline launcher. It does not. The zipline launcher does have to manually be held out in order to reload. It does not automatically reload off of Born Ready. It will automatically reload after Resupplier. It will not automatically reload off of Born Ready. I really don't understand the fascination with Born Ready. That being said, if you're somebody who switches a lot, this can be helpful. I would say the driller can benefit from this if you run a cryo cannon, the Subnautica pistol, because of the fact that you can basically cryo cannon, switch to your pistol, empty your pistol, then go to like pickaxe or drills, back to your cryo cannon, and when you go to repeat and switch to your pistol, it's loaded again. Outside of that niche situation, or maybe an auto cannon build on Gunner, I don't see a reason to run Born Ready, although it can be helpful in certain situations. The next perk I want to cover is going to be Veteran Depositor. This has some more limitations to it. There's basically two meme builds you can run. So the first bonus that I think is pretty shit is that you deposit valuables into deposit points 50% faster. this is not necessary unless you have a lot of minerals on you. If you have each of the 2 crafting minerals in the map, plus you have golden nitra, plus you have beer products. Yeah, 4. Plus you have a secondary objective. You got 9 things to deposit? Hell yeah. Veteran Depositor can cut down. The chances of you having 9 different materials to drop, plus a mission objective, if you got more kite. If you have like 9 to 10 different things, you're not going to have a lot of like beer crafting materials. You're not going to have a lot of most of the crafting materials. Golden nitra and morkite and a secondary objective are things you're going to have the most of. The main reason you run this is for the damage reduction within a mule. Now, certain missions types, low O2 missions, this can be very good for it because you have to play around your mule or your deposit point in order to get O2. And this makes it so that you get damage reduction while you're doing that. And the range on it's pretty good at 7 meters. However, on some missions, this is bad. So first off, on refining missions and on point extractions, there is 1 point on the map that you're going to get value out of this, and that's the main rig. So while you're out getting Aquarius, you have no damage reduction whatsoever. If you're building pipes, no damage reduction whatsoever. It can be one of those things that like you can have like a preset loadout ready to go to where you can put the damage reduction on and have it in your build. I don't really recommend it, but I do see the value in it. I personally would rather deal damage back to my enemy with Thorns rather than run this. So, the next 3, I'm actually going to talk about and say you should run at least one of them. So, that's going to be your spoiler alert for what my other 2 perks are. Okay, there's my other 2 perks. So we'll talk about those real quick right now, actually. Alright, talk about that. So, Thorns. Thorns makes it so that anytime an enemy damages you with a melee attack, it will itself take 24 damage when fully maxed out. Now, that is enough to kill a Swarmer. Let's just start with that. That's enough to kill a Swarmer outright. That's enough for most grunts in the game are going to take decent damage. Depending on the hazard difficulty you're on, a grunt, it's anywhere from 1 to 4 hits. 2 to 4 hits, I should say. 2 to 4 hits. So depending on what difficulty you're playing on, you can have a grunt just kill itself by doing that. Now, on higher difficulties, you would say that this is pretty bad because you don't want enemies to hit you because they deal so much damage. And ranged enemies like Acid Spirits and Macteras can, like, down you in, like, 2 shots. And then bigger enemies are going to just destroy you, and 24 damage is nothing. Like bulk detonators and oppressors, 24 damage is nothing. The key to note is that enemies, this does not affect armor at all. So if an enemy is armored, like an oppressor, it's still going to take 24 damage. It's not affected by armor at all. The only thing it's affected by is damage immunity. So like Glyphid Hive Guard, if a Glyphid Hive or Hive Guard Dreadnought. If a Hive Guard Dreadnought attacks you with an attack while it is in the damage immune stage because you haven't killed its sentinels, it's not going to take that 24 damage. But the main reason I run this is very helpful for little enemies in the game. Nemesites die on contact. I mean, they're going to die on contact anyways, but Swarmers die on contact, and any damage that is dealt helps. One of the reasons I do like it is most of your weapons are close quarters. So this makes it so that when you take damage, if you're not paying attention, you go, oh shit, I'm taking damage, and you turn around, and the enemy's already weaker for you, it can be very helpful for getting them down faster, especially if you're lower on ammo. That's the main reason this is a mainstay in my build. The second mainstay in my build is friendly. Now, most people shit on this perk. Most people think this is a noob perk. But there's a couple of reasons I run this. So the way this works is you deal 50% less friendly fire damage. And you take 50% less friendly fire damage. This means that if anybody else shoots you you deal less damage. So potentially, if you have 3 other people shooting at you, you're taking 50% less damage from each of those 3 people. And if you are shooting somebody else, they take 50% less damage. This is good for playing with toxic randoms. This is good for playing with people who can't aim. This is good for playing with drillers and C4. This is good for playing with trolls who intentionally try and down you. There's a lot of situations where somebody has tried to kill me in a game, and because I have friendly on, they can't kill me. Now, I can't kill them as well, because I deal less damage to them. But the main reason why you would run something like this is to keep you from accidentally killing your team. This is very helpful in situations where, like, you have somebody who's on a close quarters build. Like, for example, let's say you have a driller with a flamethrower, and he is just in the thick of things right here, and you're lobbing a grenade or 2 to help him, or you're just, if you're like a gunner and you're just trying to lay down minigun fire in the back, any errant bullets that hit him are going to deal less damage, and that is critical on higher difficulties for keeping your team alive, because friendly fire damage is pathetically low on lower hazards. When you get to Haz 4 and 5, if you're running, you know, like elite deep dives, or if you're just running high hazard missions for the hazard bonus on it, you are going to get an insane amount of friendly fire damage. It's almost full friendly fire damage on Hazard 5. And it is full friendly fire damage on Hazard 6, which is the last stage of a deep dive. An elite deep dive. So, you are absolutely going to want to have that. Now, having a good trigger finger and playing with people that you know mitigates this value. And I run this even though I play solo, because I don't change my perk build up at all, whether I'm playing solo or single player. I don't. Or solo or multiplayer, I don't. So yes, I have a wasted perk slot. That being said, this can be very useful if you're a greenbeard, if you're playing with greenbeards. I would recommend this for survivability because it helps eliminate one source of damage, and that to me is very critical. So now for the last perk. There are 3 vying perks for your attention, and it entirely depends to me on your playstyle. So let me start with the perk that I run first. The perk that I run first is Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth makes it so that you get 30% more healing from red sugar, and you get a 20% movement speed bonus for 10 seconds after consuming red sugar. This is after you get healed by it. So if you're full health, you can't just eat red sugar and just get movement speed bonus. Now, this can be very good in a pro movement speed build with Scout, like if you run Sweet Tooth and you run Second Wind, because anytime you heal, you can reposition. What this does is this lets you heal in the middle of a fight, reposition to a more advantageous position for that movement speed bonus. It's also helpful for if you are running back to a drop pod and you're taking damage along the way because you're not fighting. If you just grab a pickaxe swing real quick, you get a nice chunk of health and you can run. The other main reason is you get less health back from healing from the red sugar as your hazard difficulty goes up. So it's very important that you get more out of it. Now in the beginning, I was primarily healing off of resupply pods. Now the more I play, I call less resupply pods. I use Sweet Tooth more often. For that, it also just gives you an added benefit. Now the other perk I can definitely recommend is Resupply. Now Resupply gives you 3 benefits. The first is that you will regain an extra 25% health when you resupply. This means you gain 75% health from one resupply. Now this is critical because a resupply is going to give you 50% ammo and 50% of your health. If you're playing by yourself, you have all the resupplies, this perk is worthless. If you're playing with 2 people, you get 2 resupplies, which is 2 sets of 50%, that's 100%, which means this perk is worthless. But if you're playing with 3 or 4 people, where each person's only going to get 1, and you have to share the other one, this can be valuable. In addition to that, you stock up 50% faster. So this cuts your 6-second resupply time down to 3. Now this can mean a lot. If you're in a Dreadnought fight and you need to resupply to get either grenades, or C4, or flares, or shield generators, this can be valuable. But the only time you will ever get to use this perk is if you call in a resupply drop. Now, I can tell you from experience, when I play solo, I don't call resupply drops but once a mission, unless it's a Dreadnought. Very rarely do I need to call one. In addition to this, 1- and 2-player games are not particularly affected by this, except for the speed bonus. It can be helpful because after resupplying, all of your weapons instantly reload. So if you are completely empty, like you are playing a gunner, you're about to fight a Dreadnought, which is a trophy for being completely out of ammo, and calling a resupply and starting a Dreadnought fight, you can get this. Because you can just grab one resupply node and you're instantly ready to fight. This can be helpful if you're completely out of ammo on everything you have. Here's the thing with that. Every class has at least one mod, one piece of equipment that is not affected by this. So first off, shield generators don't have a reload. They have a recharge, and it doesn't affect the recharge. The grappling hook has a recharge. The power drills, once you pick up a drop, they automatically are filled with fuel. You don't have to resupply. You don't have to reload the fuel on them. Same thing with satchel charges as well, because you don't have to reload a satchel charge. The turrets as well. The turrets only apply if the turrets are built, and it won't automatically reload them if they're built. You can just recall them and they automatically do it as well. So every class in the game does have something that isn't affected by this. It's really only going to affect your weapons, zipline launcher, if you're running that, because we did talk about that, the flare gun, the platform gun, plus your 2 guns. So you're going to have potentially up to 3 parts of your kit that can be benefit from that. This is good if you plan on playing with a 4-stack and y'all are like a pretty balanced team, like one of each role, and you have a set stack, and you have a system on resupplies. The last perk to cover is Vampire. Vampire makes it so that you regen 5 health whenever you kill a medium-sized or larger creature with a melee attack. So this basically gives you 5 health whenever you kill a basic grunt. If you kill a basic grunt or bigger with a melee attack, you can do this. Now, every character in the game, except for the drillers, only way to benefit off of this is off of your pickaxe. If you kill an enemy off of Thorns or off of the Shockwave on your armor, not going to qualify. The Driller is an exception to this. He does have the pickaxe, the throwing axe, and the drills, which will count to Vampire. So you could make an argument for that. And he can run the cryo cannon, which freezes enemies, and enemies take double damage from melee at that point, which makes it easier. This does combo well if you run Iron Will, because you can run Iron Will, and you can basically get yourself up by Iron Will, pull out your drills, and kill everything around you. Most characters in the game, outside of the Driller though, want to avoid melee. I mean, you have guns for a reason. Most characters have a ranged weapon. They want to be at range. They don't want to be up close and personal. And I'm just not a fan of it. Also, 5 health is not a lot of health. Just to think about that, you're going to have 145 health under most circumstances. Because you're going to have... there's no reason that you should run the extra shield. There's no reason for it. Because your shield's going to break on higher difficulties. So you're going to run the extra health. Plus, when you have your armor rig fully maxed out, you're going to get a bonus 15 armor. So, just think about that. 145. Let's round that to 150. Just round that to 150. Okay? That means that you are getting like 1/30th. Yeah, 1/30th of your health back. Every enemy you kill. So in order to heal yourself up to full, you have to kill 30 enemies with melee. Now, obviously, you're not using this to heal yourself up to full. You're using this to heal yourself in extreme situations. I can't stand this. I prefer the red sugar. I really do. Because this allows me to heal and reposition, whereas this allows me to stay and keep healing. And this basically allows me to heal and get ammo faster. So you can pick whichever one of these three. I can't fault you on that. So, breaking down my views on the perks, you have Thorns, which is your mandatory defensive perk. Which, if you do want to run if you want to run a defensive perk and you don't want Thorns, I would consider Veteran, Depositor, or Elemental Insulation. That would be the other two choices I would recommend. You should run something for healing. So Sweet Tooth is my choice. If you're a driller, definitely Vampire. If you're not a driller, I wouldn't recommend it. If you are running Iron Will, I'd recommend it no matter what, because you could just power attack something, just to get enough of a health boost to keep you from going down instantly. And you can run Resupplier if you're in like a full team, and you're going to be doing that. And for your third perk slot, it should come down to whatever you are most comfortable with running. So that could be Friendly, which is what I would recommend. That could be Deep Pockets if you're a scout. That could be Born Ready if you don't want to reload. That could be Second Wind if you want to just go faster. Or you could duplicate another thing, like you could run Sweet Tooth and Vampire and basically have an unkillable, I have every way to heal type build. But for the perks, I definitely would not recommend. I would not recommend it's a bug thing. I would not recommend Strong Arm. I would not recommend Unstoppable. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't recommend Elemental Installation or Deep Pockets, but I can make an argument for this. So that is my personal build guide for the passive perks. Like I said, this is my opinion. This is not like, you can agree, you can disagree. This is just my preferred style of play, and this is what I would recommend to players, especially because how you run perks is going to change as you play higher hazards. As you get better at the game, Friendly is going to be less impactful, so you might say, well, I don't want to run Friendly, and then you get into a Haz 4 lobby where you have a bunch of account level 100s that have unilaterally decided that you, at level 20, for example, don't know what you're doing and are just going to C4 you to death and leave you at the start of the mission. You will get lobbies every now and then if you're playing online where you're going to get a team that will just down you as soon as you spawn, go do the rest of the mission without you, and leave you behind to die. So, I mean, it's not necessarily something that happens a lot, but it is something that can happen. But if you feel confident that you don't need this, you can definitely switch it out for something like Resupply or something like that. Thorns to me is just like mandatory, because it just negates so many enemies. Like Swarmers, I don't have to worry about. No matter what hazard difficulty, Swarmers hit me and die. I mean, yes, they're going to deal damage to me. Yes, on shield disruption, they're annoying as fuck because, you know, you don't have a shield to tank hits. But they're going to die in one hit no matter what. So, just by negating them so I don't have to waste ammo on them is a godsend. You need something for healing, something for keeping you alive, because, you know, once your health is gone, it's gone. Yeah, you respawn with 50% of your health if you get revived, which can be more healing if, you know, you don't have, like, red sugar around, or if you're not running Vampire or Resupplier. It can be more beneficial sometimes to just go down, get revived, and get more health that way. But definitely the perks I would avoid running would be, it's a bug thing, Strong Arm, Unstoppable, and then maybe I would avoid Elemental Insulation and Deep Pockets. Although I can make an argument for both of those. So, in terms of things I would do to maybe buff these, I would like to see Strong Arm combined into Strong Arm, Unstoppable combined with Second Wind. One of these two could get combined into Second Wind. Elemental Insulation would, in my opinion, work better as part of Veteran Depositor. If you got rid of the deposit faster and made it so you get 50% elemental damage reduction at the pod, or the mule or deposit point, that to me would make a really strong defensive build for just playing around Molly. Like a Molly defensive build. Born Ready, in my opinion, should definitely be thrown into Deep Pockets. Or vice versa. Because both of these perks are nice quality of life perks, but they're not impactful enough or gameplay changing enough to really warrant a unique perk spot. Like, they're handy. Don't get me wrong. Born Ready's handy. Deep Pockets is handy. But they're not good enough on their own to warrant it. I definitely think it's a loot bug thing. It's kind of just there for the memes. I would kind of like it instead if the way it worked is that loot bugs got an explosive damage modifier instead. So whenever you get within 5 meters of a loot bug, it automatically explodes, and it will cause all other loot bugs affected by that explosion to explode and deal a certain amount of damage. You could balance it around Thorns, so you could say maybe 20 damage. So when a loot bug explodes, it will deal 20 damage in a small radius around it. Maybe if the explosion radius could be like 2 meters, that way there you explode them within 5, but you could also take damage from it. If you gave it a combat purpose, it's no longer a meme build. Other than that, stop killing the loot bugs. You're a fucking monster. Anyways, I hope this video has been helpful. I am planning on doing the active perk guide, like I said, when I unlock that last perk. I want to have that last perk unlocked in order to do it. Thank you. Hope you enjoy.